Good evening, students, alumni, faculty, and staff. My name is Elena Billing, and I'm the Associate Director of Alumni Relations for the School of Sport, Tourism, and Hospitality Management. Today, I'm pleased to introduce the STHM Alumni Association's Minority Alumni Coalition. The MAC is dedicated to providing educational and eye-opening experiences for all STHM students from diverse perspectives. Today, the MAC's Job Shadow Committee, led by Brazilda Doma, John Krasetsky, and Rachel Daly, presents What Happens Next, the journey from STHM to careers in sport and recreation. This panel will be moderated by Zachary James. Zack is a 12-year veteran of the sports and entertainment industry, having spent most of that time with the New Jersey and Brooklyn Nets franchise. He's currently the CEO of Rebel Hill Consulting, which provides strategic marketing, content creation, and brand growth services to small businesses, entrepreneurs, and sports professionals. Zack is also a partner at My New Philly, a video production house and co-creator space, while also serving as the business development strategist at Navitas Marketing, a 360-degree marketing firm providing website development, graphic design, printing, and more. Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you to the MAC for hosting all of us. I will now turn things over to Zack, who will introduce today's panelists.
Thank you for that warm introduction, Elena, and welcome everyone to What Happens Next. I'm super excited to be moderating this panel of some amazing sport and rec professionals who are all alumni of STHM. Again, to all students, both undergrad, graduate, faculty, staff, please feel free to send us in questions in the Q&A. We're going to leave some time at the end of this panel to get to all your questions, and any ones that we don't have time to get to, of course, we'll respond via an email, but we're going to try to get them all in this next hour. But don't want to have you guys waiting any longer. We want to introduce you to some amazing people on this panel. So first, I'm going to actually go around the room and have everyone kind of introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about their career and kind of how they got to the point that they're at right now. And we'll actually start with Angel Guzman. So Angel, give the folks a little bit about yourself, and we'll then move on to Morgan and keep the train going.
Awesome. First, before I start, thank you guys for having us, the MAC, STHM, appreciate it. I mean, personally, I always look, how can I give back? And this is a great way I can do it. So yeah, I'm Angel Guzman, class of 2015, fall 2015. Currently game and event operations manager at the Fiesta Bowl. I've been there as an intern. Actually, I started in 2015. A few months after my internship, I was lucky to get hired as an event coordinator in April of 2016. Apologize for that. And I started with the Fiesta Bowl parade. That's what I started managing first, actually. And then I transitioned over into the game of operations side of things. And now I currently oversee all of our pregame parties that we do. Things are going to be different this year, also with COVID, for all tailgating events. But yeah, going into now my 6th overall season with the Fiesta Bowl. And yeah, that's kind of my little background about how I got to the bowl.
Awesome. Morgan.
Hi, everybody. My name is Morgan Jenkins. I am a graduate of the class of 2011 or 2015 spring semester. I work in the digital space within our industry, within the sport and entertainment industry. My first digital experience was with Xfinity Live in, I want to say 2013, where I completed my junior internship. And from there, I've worked I did my senior internship at the United States Olympic Committee in Colorado. And then I moved to New York after graduation in 2015, where I was a digital operations coordinator with NBC Universal. So that's a myriad of properties. I started in the entertainment division, so that's NBC, Bravo, Oxygen. And then from there, I went on to work in a sports capacity. So with Telemundo, Olympics, NFL, and then now I am the associate manager of digital operations at the NBA.
Awesome, thank you, Morgan. Let's move on to Ganiu.
Thanks, Zach. Want to echo Angel and Morgan's notes. Appreciate you guys having us. This is super dope, obviously, in these crazy times, but anytime we can connect with students, alumni, and faculty at STHM, it's always great. So my path goes a little bit. I graduated same year as Morgan, spring of 2015. And then I went into inside sales with the Brooklyn Nets. Was one of those jobs where it was just like, hey, I'm trying to get my foot into the door. Didn't really want to do ticket sales, but I knew it was something that's going to help me get some transferable skills and hopefully propel me into my next role. So did that for about a year, and then got fortunate enough to find, the right timing, enough internal networking, which propelled me to get my next role as a coordinator in the partnership marketing space with BSC Global. And everybody who doesn't know what BSC Global is, this is STHM, so I'm sure you all do, but BSC Global is the parent company for the Brooklyn Nets, Barclays Center, New York Liberty, Nets Gaming Crew. I'm sure I'm forgetting another vertical of ours, but so from coordinator, continue to develop my skills and into my current role as a senior account executive on the partnership marketing side for BSC Global.
Fantastic, Ganiu, and we got a lot in common, so we're gonna have some good chats for sure. Let's move on to Lisa.
Hey everyone, my name is Lisa Payton. Graduated spring 2016 from STHM. My start really started with my athletics admin class junior year, which is basically NCAA 101, and really got me introduced to the compliance world and what it was all about. So from there, I just continued to get my experience in compliance. At that time, I was a student worker with Temple Football, and I dabbled a little bit in compliance with their in-house compliance liaison. And then for my senior internship, I went down to USF for the 4 months, also doing compliance. Learned some more there. And then when I graduated from Temple, I went on for a year-long internship with Villanova doing compliance and student services. Wanted to switch it up a little bit, thought maybe I was interested in academics for a bit. So I went and got my master's from UCF in higher ed and student personnel, was a GA for academics there. Realized I still missed compliance and that component of it. So when I was searching for a job, Rutgers University popped up for a compliance coordinator position. And I was so lucky that a person who I had worked closely with at USF was also working at Rutgers. So linked up with him, talked to him about it, and now I'm at Rutgers, been here for about a year.
Awesome, Lisa. And super pumped to actually have one of my mentors on this panel. First time we've gotten a chance to do this together. Dan, please introduce folks to yourself.
Thanks, Zach. Hey, everybody. My name is Dan Russell. It's, again, just want to echo what everybody already said. It's always great to connect back to Temple University and talk to, not only alumni, but also to current students. I guess you could say I'm the old man on the panel. I graduated from the program back in 1997 when we were in the school of Hyper D, which was health, physical education, recreation, and dance. That was before our program moved over to what it is now. So how I got started is basically right from my senior internship. I did a summer internship with Upper Merion Township Parks and Recreation. I was living in Philadelphia at the time, commuting up here to King of Prussia, and basically just learning what recreation was all about, what it takes to be a park and recreation professional. Had the opportunity to work with a great department, great program running summer camps and adult sport leagues and things of that nature. Like I said, after my internship, I graduated, was fortunate enough to stay on in Upper Merion part-time, shopped around a little bit, looking around for jobs and positions, and Upper Merion hired me full-time in 1998 as the recreation superintendent, where I was responsible for all of the recreation programs within the department and a small team of staff that put those programs together for our community. I was there in that position for about 10 years. And then in 2007, our long-term park and recreation director retired, and I was fortunate enough to get his position of Parks and Recreation Director, which I've been in that role, like I said, since 2007, and had the amazing opportunity to grow the department to what it is today. We recently opened a $15 million community center which we've been open for about 4 years now, which I'm responsible for. And our department has just blown up in the past 8 or 9 years, developing that. So it's been a great opportunity. And again, happy to be here and be a part of this exciting group.
Awesome, Dan. Thanks for giving people that background. A lot more experience. You've been out here doing it for a while, but of course we really appreciate you being on the panel. Let's go over to Melynda, who actually was on our webinar last week, The Disruptor. We want to make sure you guys check that out on the STHM Mac YouTube page or the Connections platform. But Melynda, give the folks some information about yourself and how you got to where you're at now.
Thanks, Zach. Yeah, definitely want to echo the appreciation of being a part of this. Anytime we can give back, STHM is the greatest. So anytime we can help, bring up the current students, I really jump on board. So I'm currently at Haverford College. I have a little bit of a unique story. So my freshman year, classes start the first week. I interviewed to be a basketball manager for the women's basketball team. Was fortunate that they were doing a bit of a turnover process. So a bunch of us got hired. And by the end of senior year, I was a head manager with two people who would become basically my best friends. So I also did an internship with the Philadelphia Soul my freshman year, and my junior internship was with Cabrini. Those are the two where I really learned that facilities and event operations were kind of my jam. And so my senior internship was at Haverford College, where I currently am. Luckily, fortunate, maybe just good luck that my Cabrini supervisor was roommates with the person who I was applying to at Haverford. And so he put a good word in. And then when I graduated, their third roommate was my supervisor at LaSalle when I was hired as a GA. So thankfully, I guess I did a good job that they passed on the word to the next person. So I got my MBA at LaSalle, and then my supervisor at Haverford left. I had just accepted a promotion at LaSalle, but I knew Haverford in Division III was where I wanted to be. So I'm going on our third year. It's obviously a very different year this year, but I love my job and I'm very grateful to be here.
Awesome, Linda. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Angel Guzman, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm good. I already went. Remember?
Oh, we did start with you, Angel. You're right. Alphabetical order. I should have known that. So let's not have Angel say something again. Let's move on to our first question, which is actually already up on the screen. What was your first year out of STHM like? So again, a lot of the folks who are watching are rising seniors and folks who are anticipating, entering the workforce in the upcoming months and years. So we want to give them a really good insight as to some of the hurdles, some of the positives that came out of our first year out of STHM. And why don't we start with Dan? We'll go back into time. Dan, tell us what 98 was like. Tell us about that first year out of STHM. We're actually out of Hyper D.
You're really testing my limits to go back that far to try to remember, right? No, the first year that I was out of school was, it's a little nerve-wracking. You pick up your degree and you're wondering what you're going to do for the rest of your life. So for me, one of the things that I did during my internship is I took advantage of the internship opportunity. I did my best to try to meet as many people as possible, to network as much as possible. You hear that word all through your time at Temple about the importance of networking and how important it is. And I can't stress it enough, with all of my years of experience, I still benefit from networking on a regular and consistent basis. So I did that as much as possible and took a look at all the opportunities that were around me and dove in head first on taking as many interview opportunities as I could to try to get better. Because, as the old adage says, you only get better by doing things repetitively. I learned that from coaching. So yeah, that's what I did. I mean, I networked, I volunteered, I put my time in, made it a point to reach out to people. And even after some of the interviews that I knew I didn't do well on, because it was my first or second time interviewing, I would call the person that I interviewed with and said to them, hey, how can I improve myself? What can I do better? And learned from that and was able to get better at those things. So that was really my first year. And, again, it took about a year, almost a year, about 8 months for, the township to recognize, that I was hustling and moving and wanted to do something with myself. And I, again, was in the right place at the right time, a full-time position open for me. And that really springboarded my career for me.
Awesome. Melynda, tell us about your first year.
Yeah, so I feel like in STHM, our lives are just different in the way that we're not on campus because of our senior internship. So for me, I feel like my first year out of STHM started with my senior internship. So I was job searching. I remember I was so upset and miserable that I didn't have a job. And it was nerve-wracking because you see everybody in, especially the hospitality folks, they've all got jobs lined up from their paid internships. And meanwhile, I'm doing a full-time unpaid internship. So I graduated literally top of our class, not to brag, but to tell you, like, you can do really well in the classroom and still graduate without a job. So thankfully, I was hired about a month after graduation at LaSalle. I was working for very minimal money, but I was, putting in the work and hustling. And my first and second year were very similar in that I was just gaining more responsibilities we went on. But I was also doing my MBA. And one piece of advice that I got probably during senior year was for me to decide whether I wanted to jump into a full salary position or whether I wanted to go right for my degree. I knew I was going to do my degree. I know that I'm going to do a PhD. And so for me, it was important to start right away. And so I was mostly only applying for GA positions. So I was fortunate that LaSalle had an MBA program that I wanted. And so that was what my focus was. But I think it's important to also understand you don't need a full salary job right out of college if you're able to continue your education. So definitely was hustling. I was working multiple jobs. I was babysitting, working in the pharmacy part-time, which I still do because I love it so much. But it was a whirlwind of a year and one I can barely remember because we were so busy all the time.
Right. And thank you, Melynda, for keeping it very real. Top of your class, it does not guarantee you a position coming out. It is a battle in getting opportunities in our fields. Let's move on to Angel. It is your turn now, Angel. I know I'm not going to make that mistake again. Angel, tell us a little bit about your first year coming out of STHM.
Yeah, so like Melynda said, I mean, obviously your senior internship really, was like your first year out of school. But I guess I'll focus really on my first full-time year at the Bowl. It was a little crazy. I'm not gonna lie to you. 2016 is my first full-time year, and we actually hosted the national semifinal, a playoff game at the Fiesta Bowl. And I had no idea what I was doing because, I just did a regular host game the year before, and I wasn't sure how crazy it could get. It really taught me one thing is like, I don't really need a lot of sleep to function. I need a lot of Red Bull and just adrenaline to keep pushing. It was just a bigger game, more bodies, more media, more fans, more details, more fan engagement. So it really just got crazy. So it really just felt like a nonstop, we call it, obviously a marathon, not a sprint, but it felt like you were sprinting during, this entire marathon we had, which for us probably started in November and went through, January 2nd. So yeah, the first year was crazy. But a good time, and I learned from it. Just got done with our, another playoff this past season, so that was a lot easier for me personally. So that, taught me a lot.
Awesome. And again, just a reminder to all those who are viewing, please feel free to send us any questions in the Q&A. We'll get to those towards the end of the panel. Let's hop over to Morgan. Tell us about your first year out of STHM.
So I too graduated without a job offer when I walked across the stage. Well, yes and no. So like I mentioned earlier, I had an internship. My senior internship was with the United States Olympic Committee, and they extended a contracted position for me to stay on for another year. However, it was in Colorado Springs, like maybe an hour outside of Denver, and I realized very quickly I'm a city girl. I did not like living in Colorado. I loved my internship. What I was doing at the Olympic Committee was I was responsible for like website maintenance and development for the Olympic site, and then also the governing bodies. So that's like USA Swimming, soccer, etc. One of my big projects was implementing and testing live stream on to the website and app in time for the 2016 Olympic Games, which I might have like dated myself just a little, because now that's like a very common thing. But at the time, that was a really like large overhaul. But for me, I just knew I didn't want to stay in Colorado. So I turned down that job with no other offers. My parents thought I was crazy. But I mean, it kind of worked out. At the time, I was interviewing at NBC. Like I said, I wasn't placed within the sports division initially. So within my first year, I spent a lot of time networking within the organization. Not just, and I think it's important to highlight that oftentimes we hear a lot about like networking up, but your peer group is also like a very strong source that you can tap into. And that's what I've really learned throughout my career. I would hang out with like the sports group during lunch, grab coffee with them. And then later, maybe like a year or two later, I was asked to be on sports projects. So to support digital ad campaigns for the Olympics, for Sunday Night Football, for NBC Deportes. So that was kind of what my first year was like. I was living in New York City. I enjoyed every single second of it. Went out to a lot of networking, happy hours and events. So yeah, that was pretty much a synopsis of what my first year was like.
No, that's great, Morgan. And you touched on a really important, facet, is that networking element. The first opportunity for a lot of, folks coming out of school like that can network on a business level. It is happening in that first year, and that can be so pivotal as to the other opportunities and relationships and how that all blossoms. The education committee is actually doing a MAC webinar next month about relationships. So a lot of what Morgan said, you'll hear echoed on that panel. Let's hop over to Ganiu. Tell us about your first year at STHM.
Yeah, I knew I was going to get along with the folks on this panel because I too didn't have a job coming out of walking across the stage on graduation. So the first, 3-4 months of my first year at STHM, it was stressful, just applying, sending your resume and application everywhere, hoping to get a bite. One thing I didn't mention at the top there in my intro was my senior internship was with the New York Islanders in their sponsorship department. So it was their last year when they were still all out on Long Island before the move to Brooklyn. So I was doing everything from, handling clients, handling tickets, reading contracts and everything. So I knew after that senior internship, sponsorship and or marketing was, kind of the path that I wanted to go. So as I mentioned, throwing my resume everywhere, getting no bites. And then I came across this inside sales position. And if you ask Montag and if you ask anybody that knew me coming out of STHM, I was like, I am not doing ticket sales. Like that is the last thing I'm going to do. So long and behold, I am doing ticket sales. I'm in inside sales. And it was a new skill for me, right? Like I was never really a true seller at heart. I was always a relationship manager, a relationship builder kind of person. So it was something that really, really took me a long time to kind of get used to. And even when I did get used to it, I was still middle of the pack. But what set me apart, I think, was, the relationships that I did make with my clients, right? If I made a group sale, I made sure that I knew my client had a 3-year-old kid and it was his birthday, we're going to get him a jersey or get him out onto the court and things like that. And I didn't even notice subconsciously, during my ticket sales career, right, and inside sales, I was kind of gaining transferable skills that was going to propel me into my current situation on the sponsorship team, right? Relationship building, knowing how to negotiate, communication, all those really transferable skills helped me nail my interview with partnership marketing. So even though, and that just to kind of tells you, right, like even your first job might not be your career job, but you can always kind of take things from it to help you in the future. So while it was kind of stressful, it wasn't ideal. I definitely made the most of it. I made sure, like Dan mentioned, like Morgan mentioned, I made sure that I networked externally with clients, but I also networked internally, right, with people within my group, people in different departments, people that I knew the sponsorship team worked with on a day-to-day basis. So when that interview time came, I knew I could lean on those people and say, hey, I'm going out for this interview for opening with the partnership team. Can you put in a good word? Because I built that relationship with them. So all in all, It was a lot. It's fast, like every year is after you graduate college. It was exciting, but I think most in all, it was stressful.
Wow, and another really great gem there. There's no wasted movements in this industry. You know, Ganiu was not looking to be in ticket sales, but taking an opportunity in ticket sales helped him get to a position that he loves. You know, you said it, you kind of hit the nail on the head that, you know, your first position is not typically or almost never your full career and where you're going to be going. So it's good to build those transferable skills, get that education, do the networking in that early time, and let that help you blossom and figure out what your next step is. Let's head over to Rutgers University. Lisa, tell us about your first year coming out of STHM.
Yeah, so I feel like listening to everyone else, I also did not really have a plan when I was graduating. I didn't know what was next. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I remember being at USF, in my senior internship, having Skype calls with Dr. Bailey back at STHM. Like, he's just literally advising me, I don't know what I want to do. Like, do I want to go get a job? Do I want to go back and get my master's? So for me, I think at that point it was probably too late to go get a master's. I didn't really know what I wanted to study or anything like that, but I applied to Villanova's internship program. Luckily, it got accepted, and I started my compliance and student services internship that August after graduation. So I was lucky that, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew that there was a great program available. So lucky to go on and move on to Villanova and do that internship. It was a great year. I really learned a lot. It was my first time really diving deep into compliance and having, you know, full responsibility for certain areas. Whereas when I was at USF just as a compliance assistant, I was literally just doing, you know, whatever the person who I was working with didn't want to do, like the busy work. Like, I was learning, but still just not really doing something of substance that I felt. But my first year at Villanova was great. I had great leadership. I had I built a great foundation of what I still look back to today. Working at Rutgers 4 years later, I still, you know, look back at my time at Villanova and see how things were done there, or what I learned there and how I can apply it now. But it was really just figuring out, is this what I want to do? Like, even while I was at Villanova, I was not only working in compliance, but I was working in student athlete development, and I had a foot in academics. So it was trial and error, me given the opportunity to figure out what I wanted to do without being committed to it. And, you know, after I left Villanova, I went and got my master's and pursued the academic piece of it. But I'm just really grateful for my experience at Nova. I know I'm trying not to rival school, trying not to hype them up too much. But it was a great experience, and I'm happy for it. And I think I was kind of spoiled by it, but I know going forward, like, as a leader, as I move into leadership positions and I get interns and GAs, like, that was just a great experience and foundation to, you know, look at.
Awesome. And I'll actually chime in too. My first year out of STHM was very unique. Actually interned at Madison Square Garden my senior year for the New York Liberty, the WNBA team. And kind of like the rest of you said, you know, your first year is kind of like your internship because you're in a working experience. And it was great. Loved New York, being in an environment that I wasn't really too familiar with, but of course, you know, relished the chance to be in that sort of a city. And literally my internship ended the week before we were walking. And it just so happened my manager at the time said, hey, you should apply for inside sales with the New Jersey Nets. And I was just like, I'm going to go home and work for the Flyers or the Sixers or figure out a way to get a job. And she was like, well, this could be a good way to just get that experience of interviewing. So I literally went to this interview the Monday prior to walking with the mindset of just like getting interview experience. And apparently I did good because the guy offered me a job on the spot. And I didn't know how to not accept a job offer. So I ended up taking it and starting that following Monday. So I graduated on a Friday. I'm up in New Jersey working on a Monday with no preparation. I didn't have any sort of plan to be living or working in New York. I was staying in a friend's apartment during my internship, did not know that I was going to be able to stay there longer. Didn't have transportation, which Again, granted, a lot of New York is subway, but to get from Brooklyn, where I was living, to East Rutherford, where our offices were, it was about a 2-hour trek between 2 trains and either a long walk or a taxi ride once you got over on the Jersey side. So I was able to find someone who actually was from the Philadelphia area, who was willing to pick me up halfway. And that grind that I know you're very familiar with, Ganiu, was, in that inside sales room, making, up to 100 calls a day and really trying to prove your skill set. I didn't want to do sales either. But I knew if I excelled in that area, I would be able to get promoted to a full-time position. And from there, it's all about relationships and who you're able to build with. So I made that my key focus, networking, both internally with folks at the Nets and then externally. Again, that helped me on the ticket sales side, but I was always looking for folks to bring into my circle that were really business minded. I wanted to learn from them. Of course, I wanted to sell them Nets tickets as well. But I was always thinking future opportunities can come from these relationships. So that's one thing that I've heard echoed a lot here, is that relationship building in that first year is key. And of course, having an open mind. You're not always going to get that dream position or dream job right when you come out of school, but you have to be open-minded and take the opportunities that have some opportunity to help you grow and enhance your career. So we're going to move on to the next question. I'm actually going to start with you, Morgan. What's one thing that you currently know that you wish you knew when you graduated? Something that would have helped you back in the day or whenever you began working full time. What's that one tidbit you'd give someone that you wish you knew?
It's okay to be transparent about what you want, like what your career objectives and goals are, even if they don't exactly align with what your position is right now. A lot of times in this industry, you'll find people who want to get you to the next level. It's not that you don't necessarily care about what you're doing, your current job, but people like goal-oriented people. So I found, even with when I was at the Olympic Committee, when I had that conversation with my supervisor to turn down the role, and I told her really what I was interested in and looking for, I told her that NBC was one of the organizations I was targeting, and she really came through and provided a list of her contacts who worked at NBC. Even when I got to NBC, like I said, I wasn't on the sports team initially, but I made sure to tell everybody that I had a sports background. I did want to get into the sports side of the house. I mean, I was very focused on, what my job was on a day-to-day, but just picking up work as it was available, like in our big department meetings across all functions. If there was a sports project and they were looking for extra help on something, I'll be the first one to volunteer. And then after a while, even my manager, when she heard of stuff that she thought I would be interested in, sports projects, she just volunteered me. And she asked me later, and I learned, the importance of mentorship and sponsorship. And she really worked as a sponsor for me, meaning she advocated for my behalf when I wasn't in the room. So we hear about mentorship a lot, and mentorship is really important, but you also want to have a connection with people that are in rooms that you're not, who can help you get to the next level of your career, or get you on projects, or etc., like something that you're interested in. So just being transparent about what you want, how your career, I think, is an important lesson that I wish I had known earlier. I was a little shy about it at first, but I learned how to get more comfortable with that over time.
Yeah, that's super key. I'm glad you said that, Morgan. I think, that transparency provides you a greater opportunity to grow. If those who are ahead of you, those who to some degree have a little bit of say in your career growth and, your trajectory, if they know exactly what you want to do and where you want to go, they can actually help put you in really good positions. And that's one of those things that's tough to have conversations with, even when it comes to things like finances, what's my salary, like that first time where you have an opportunity to discuss, your next opportunity or a pay bump. Like it's a tough scenario and feeling, just like that is. So the quicker someone can get comfortable with that, the better it is for their career.
Yes, and I was really happy because my first manager was awesome in that regard. A lot of organizations, you'll have like goal setting time periods, especially for like your performance reviews, which is like an annual, something that you do annually. It's similar to like if you completed your senior internship or any internship at STHM, that feedback that you get. But in a corporate setting, it might be like a little more formal, at least the jobs that I've had. I've literally had to list my goals. Some people take it more seriously than others. I take it very seriously, just because that's a formal period of time where you can really discuss and dive into your career goals and how that company can help you leverage to get there.
Indeed. Ganiu, what's your thoughts on that? Something that you wish you knew back when you started your career?
Yeah, Morgan coming in hot with that one. Transparency and being realistic with what you want. I think that's huge. And that's going to just propel you to bigger and better things. And Morgan, obviously being at the league office and everything she's accomplished, she's definitely putting that into truth. So it's funny, when I got this question, I was thinking like, what can I, give to the people that are watching that is profound yet realistic? So if somebody pressed me after, it wasn't something that I just made up. But what I thought of was diversity is a strength. That's something that, especially these days, is really coming to fruition for me. I think, and I want to speak personally, but I'm sure a lot of folks that are watching, I'm sure a lot of folks on this panel have seen themselves in a situation where they might be the only person that looks like themselves, and in a boardroom, in a Zoom call, in a conference call, whatever it might be. And you might just think, okay, maybe I shouldn't speak up or share my experiences or share my knowledge because, these people don't look like me. Fortunately, and it's crazy that I'm even using the word fortunate in what we've gone through in the past 5 months, right? But the past 5 months have shown us like diversity is a strength. It's a positive. And that's in all kind of facets, right? Diversity in representation, diversity of thought, diversity, obviously just in higher management, all kind of facets of diversity is a strength. And it took me a little bit to kind of find that strength in myself, saying, hey, you are a African-American man, in a widely, in an environment that isn't like you, or people that don't look like you, but your experiences matter, right? Your experiences can help, whether it's with brainstorms, when you're thinking about activations for partners, when you're thinking of, kind of different verticals that we should be attacking, or even when it comes to just like music, what music should you bump at a jersey reveal? Those things, and even if your ideas don't actually come to fruition and aren't used, it's forcing people to think differently. So that's what I would say. Diversity is a strength. Diversity is positive.
That was awesome, Ganiu. And I'm gonna keep it real. It seems like everyone's dropping jewels that are worth 10, 15 minutes more, a deeper dive into. It's a good time for me to plug the MAC, because a lot of these things that are coming up are things we're going to be discussing, and topics that we really want to touch on, especially for folks that might be struggling with the fact that they don't have someone at their career or at school that looks like them or that can relate to their experience. We want to be able to provide that for students. Let's move on to Lisa. Lisa, give the folks something that you know now that you wish you knew back when you got into your career.
So I think one thing that we can all agree that we wish we knew when we graduated, and even what I wish I knew just last year starting my first full-time job, is to give yourself some more time, give yourself some more grace. I feel like when we graduate and we get that piece of paper, whether it's your bachelor's or your master's, you automatically think all your dreams are going to start coming true. It's not the case. It takes time, and like you need to work at it. And I think when you have that thought that everything's going to come true, your dreams are just going to happen immediately, that you get frustrated of not being there, wherever there is, wherever you think you should be. But you need to remember, again, it takes time. Your journey is your journey. Don't compare yourself to other people. I mean, I I see people who I graduated with in my class who are maybe 10 steps ahead of me, and I think I should be there, but no, you know, I've done what I needed to do to get to where I need to be. And I think if you have that mindset that you're constantly chasing these unrealistic goals or unrealistic deadlines that you put on yourself, is that you're going to get burned out. You're going to be stressed, you're going to be fatigued, you're not going to want to do your job anymore. So I think you just need to stay in the moment, continue to build your resume, continue to get those experiences, but just don't think that once you graduate, you get your degree, in a snap, life happens and you're in your dream job. I've had 3 positions since I left Temple. Like, I'm obviously not in my dream job yet. I don't know where I want to be yet, but I'm still working at it. For some people, it happens in a snap, and others it takes time, but just trust your process. You can have it all, but you're not going to have it all at once.
Awesome. Awesome. Dan, give us something that you wish you knew back when you started.
Some big shoes here to fill. Guys got dropping some good info here. I had a couple things I wrote down here. You know, Ganiu, I echo his sentiments. You know, when I first read this question, I wanted to, you know, throw something good out there. I think the one thing that I really came up with was, don't be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone. I can go back to, you know, when I was a student at Temple, you know, I didn't even know what Parks and Recreation was. I knew there was a couple professors that taught some classes, you know, Professor Dolores Andy and Professor Tedrick. I'm probably throwing out some names none of you even recognize, but those guys, those guys were around, and I saw myself, you know, working for the Flyers or working for the Phillies or doing something like that, and staying located in Philadelphia, where I was born and raised. And it wasn't until Jeff Montague climbed into me a little bit, told me I needed to spread my wings and look outside of just sport. And there is a world of recreation. And I thought to myself, all right, let's give it a shot, especially if Jeff's telling me to do it. I guess I got to do it. So that's what I did. And, you know, I had my junior internship with the Philadelphia Department of Recreation. And again, you know, he pushed and pushed. And I'm happy to say that he was my very first mentor at Temple. And, you know, I looked outside of the city of Philadelphia and found this place called Upper Merion, which I didn't even know existed other than the King of Prussia Mall, and wound up doing a senior internship there, and said to myself, this is way different than anything that I've ever known. And again, you know, I'll go back, you know, I was fortunate enough to land a full-time job after hustling and working part-time for peanuts, volunteering a lot, and then uprooted myself and moved out here. And you know, haven't looked back. I mean, I still have friends and stuff in the city, and I love the city of Philadelphia and go back whenever I can, and I miss it a lot. But I've moved my entire life out here and just raised a family out here. So again, you know, don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone. I mean, even, you know, with me, you know, 23 years in the field, I'm still doing it. You know, a couple of years ago, I'm looking at Lisa. You know, I was fortunate enough to teach a class at Temple, which when folks reached out to me about doing that, I thought they were crazy because, you know, I wasn't the best student. I mean, I'm going to be honest. But, you know, people looked up to me and thought I would do a good job. And I'm not going to ask Lisa if I did, but I was fortunate enough to teach Lisa and a bunch of other students in a Temple class. And I've done a lot of things professionally over the course of even up to a couple years ago that still stepping outside of my comfort zone today. So if I can leave you with anything, you know, that's one of the things that I wish I knew back then that I know now is, you know, you can benefit so much from doing that and learn so much from doing that and impress so many people from doing that. So don't be afraid.
Awesome advice. And shout out to you, Dan, for hiring me for my first ever job back in 2000 as a camp counselor at Upper Merion Park and Rec. So go Vikings. Let's move on to Melynda. Give us something that you wish you knew back when you graduated.
Yeah, I feel a lot of pressure going last right now, so I'm glad I won't be last on the next question. But I think what I,
oh yeah, he's technically last.
oh, true. Man, we're messing up Angel tonight.
Yeah.
For me, what's really important is to know that not everybody knows everything. So like, it feels like, oh, I'm going into a new position, I don't know anything. Well, there's a lot of people that don't know everything. And so instead of, they always say like, you don't know what you don't know, but you also don't know what everybody else doesn't know. And so even just like applying to jobs, like you're never going to check every box. If you did, you would be applying for the next position. So, you know, I was never the type of person that would ask for help. I was never the type of person that would tell somebody I don't know. And I've gotten very, very comfortable at being like, I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm going to find out for you. And so that's taken years. I mean, I'm in my third year, so what, 5 years out of college now, but it's okay to not know everything. And I wish I knew that, because as a person that really strives on, you know, being right and really competitive, having become comfortable with not knowing and being able to admit that, I think is the one thing I wish I was better at earlier in my career.
Awesome. And Angel, give us your thoughts towards something that you wish you knew back when you graduated.
Wow. No pressure, first of all, because everybody just killed it on this panel.
And you feel free to reiterate. There's a lot of good stuff out here.
I got one thing I'm going to reiterate. I guess I'll start off first. I apologize to Montag and Rydell, who are probably on here watching. They're going to kill me. I wish I would have actually believed them when they told me, hey, your internship is actually part of your next job interview. And I say that because obviously I was real lucky where, you know, I was an intern from, you know, August to February, and I didn't get hired till July. And, you know, the reason I got hired in July is because they saw what I was doing during my internship. You know, you got to work, you got to grind, you got to, you know, like Dan said, step out of your comfort zone, help others in other departments. I mean, I've helped accounting with some stuff, and I'm just like, I barely passed accounting as a student, but I helped them with what I could. I was like, I have a calculator and I'll do some math, I mean, whatever. But it's really, to me, the biggest takeaway though is, like I said, just work, you know, keep working, don't ever stop. Don't say no. You know, if somebody needs help and you see them struggling, if they're your coworker or not, whether you like them or not, just help people. It goes a long way, especially, like I said, when it comes to part of that next opportunity, whether you get a job where you're interning or a job at, you know, another organization, those people will go to bat for you. You know, they'll say, hey, that Angel guy, he killed it. He worked. He said, he never said no. He always helped people. You know, he was all about the team. So, I mean, that's my biggest takeaway.
That's a great takeaway. And I'll throw one more on top before we move on to our final question before Q&A with our audience. And this is a very difficult one to actually have coming out of school. But one thing I knew later in my career that I wish I knew earlier was it's okay to be very confident early in your career. I think I lacked confidence, you know, my first couple years. And, you know, it took a level of success and a level of being comfortable with your surroundings to gain it. But I realized that confidence factor in being sure about what you're doing and knowing that you're doing the right thing, later on, that was something that I used to really propel me quickly, you know, from one position to another. And I noticed and saw others who had it right from the gate. They weren't always right. They were confident in making mistakes as well, which is something that I've never been overly comfortable with. So I think that's why I might have lacked behind in terms of when I got to a high level of confidence in myself and in my work. But trying to get over those butterflies as quickly as possible, trying to get to a point where you feel confident in speaking to higher ups and having those conversations and getting to know not just the people around you in your office, but the CEO, having that confidence to go and engage them in a conversation, even as an intern. You know, I didn't have that. And that's something I wish I cultivated earlier, because that could have equated into getting even further in my career than I did in the time frame that I did it. But we're going to move on to this last final question, and then we're going to get into some Q&A. So this last one. So what keeps you motivated, especially in 2020? And what's next for you professionally? Now, you can kind of combine these together. If you want to choose to focus on one of these over the other, that's perfectly fine. I know you didn't want to go last, and you thought you went last time, Melynda, so we're going to let you go first. in answering that question. So tell us what kind of keeps you motivated and what you see as your next professional step.
Thanks, Zach. Really appreciate it. So I'm really fortunate that my student athletes and my campus community are on campus right now. I know this is not the norm. So for me, everything I do is to benefit my student athletes. I appreciate them as people, but I also appreciate them as student athletes. And so being able to give them some sort of athletic experience this year is what keeps me motivated. So it was a really, really tough time this summer, especially when we're grinding, you know, putting plans in place, and there's people in your ear saying like, none of this is going to matter. And so it was really, really tough. And we moved into phase 2 of our athletic plan yesterday. And so all of our winter sports started. So the past 2 days I've spent time just walking around. You know, we've got a squash team, a fencing team, and basketball playing on our tennis courts right now. So nothing is normal. And, you know, it's even more of a grind than I think in a regular year because of the mental aspect of things. But just being able to have my students on campus has been phenomenal. I don't know truly how I would be feeling if they were all from home right now. It would be a really big challenge. So definitely don't envy anybody in that particular situation right now. For me professionally, I assume my next job will be some sort of assistant athletic director position. I would like to stay in Division III, but I'm very open to anything. The structure of our administration here at Haverford doesn't really lend to my next position being here, but we're very hopeful that we can get some new positions added, but I don't think that's happening because of COVID. So I have no idea, but I'm very open to a lot of things. So we will see.
And I think that's unfortunately a common thread for a lot of folks, of course, not just in our industry, but heavily in our industries, is there's an uncertainty. It's something that you really kind of don't know what that next move and next step is. You just kind of got to take it day by day and, you know, be thankful that you are in a position. Because of course, I know we all have a lot of friends and you know, close colleagues that aren't working now. So it's difficult. Angel, let's go with you in terms of something that keeps you motivated and what's next for you professionally.
Yeah, so I'll say what keeps you motivated is the challenge of this coming season for us, especially. I'm kind of a guy that's weird. I kind of like a challenge and things I don't know about. You know, going back to Dan's point, stepping out of your comfort zone. With COVID, you know, stadiums are not going to look the same this year. So right now, we as an organization are working on a lot of different plans. One is obviously with some sort of limited capacity fans, one with no fans at all. And then we know what to do if we have fans at full capacity, but I mean, we'll see what happens between now and January. So really that's what keeps me going. I mean, working with our partners at, you know, Arizona Cardinals, State Farm Stadium, and Chase Field and the D-backs, just seeing, hey, what are you guys doing? You know, what are the Cardinals doing? What are the D-backs going to do if baseball comes back, you know, to them next year with fans? You know, kind of seeing what are your COVID protocols? How can we piggyback off that? How can we work with you? Working with the health department. So, I mean, to me, it's all new and I like new. It kind of re-energizes me to do something different, even though it's unfortunate the situation we're in. But everybody has to go through it, you know, whether you're in an arena, stadiums, you know, on the fields, outdoors, we're all going through it some way, shape, or form. Professionally, you know, I've been at a manager position now for the past 3 years. I did my time as an intern, as a coordinator. So hopefully, you know, that next step is a director level or a senior manager position, whether it be the next year or two. But again, with COVID, you know, promotions and other job opportunities very, very slim out there. So it's just, you know, putting the work in now and hoping that, you know, after this is, you know, we're back, it pays off for me.
Certainly. Let's move over to Morgan. Tell us about something that keeps you kind of motivated during this difficult year and your next step professionally.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the innovation for me, to be perfectly honest, like, especially at the NBA, I think we're a very innovative organization and sports league. So you definitely hear innovation thrown down and challenged from a very high level. And I mean, I took that like to heart, you know, just thinking of ways I can collaborate with people more innovatively or provide additional services. I think now because of COVID and people's discretionary income is is not, maybe not, might be as much. You're really fighting for dollars in a sense out here, and what your product or service, how that's capturing people's attention, their wallets. And I mean, that's something that I really have been enjoying, is how like just out of the box thinking and creative thinking to, you know, push viewership or your brand to the next level. And I just realized on the panel, I really didn't speak a lot about what I do at the MBA, but I mean, that's one of the things that really drew me to the organization is just, you know, the concept and how innovative of an organization they are. And, you know, I mean, personally, the one project that I want to be on moving forward is the Next Gen Experience telecast. And it's just a new way, it's a direct to consumer platform. And, you know, it's just a new viewership experience and ways to like just differently consume the game. So that's one thing that I want to work on moving forward. I mean, I've been, you know, throwing my fish line out there. So we'll see what happens. But, and then also being a people manager, I more so am like a independent contributor right now. So I'm responsible only for me, myself, and I. But I want to be responsible for cultivating talent moving forward. So.
Awesome. Awesome. And again, for the viewers, please feel free to send us your questions. We have a couple great ones we're going to get to. We're probably going to go past 7, maybe 10, 15 minutes past 7. So hopefully you can hang on with us so we can get through, because you got some great knowledge. And I really want to get some answers from this group on the Q&A. But on this topic, let's move on to Ganiu. What keeps you motivated, man? And what's next for you professionally?
Yeah, I think I could touch on a lot of the things that Melynda, Angel, and Morgan kind of talked about, right? Like all of our kind of realities have been shifted at this point. At this point, the NBA doesn't even know when next season is going to start. Obviously, next summer has, you know, Olympics is going to be next summer. So navigating around that. But I think the way I want to go with this one is just a lot more holistically. What the pandemic and quarantine has afforded me is the time to actually attend a lot of webinars and panels like this. And one of the webinars that I recently attended was a Nike one, and I heard from a recruiter something that really stuck with me, and it's probably going to stick with me for the rest of my life. Is, you know, when your elevator gets to the top, don't forget to send it back down so other people can get to the top as well, right? And I think that's what motivates me this year and for my next step professionally. Is I obviously am not at where I want to be, you know, for the end of my career, but I feel like I'm in a place right now that I can help people. Whether it's, you know, advice, whether it's recommendations, whether it's resume building. So my elevator isn't at the top yet, but it is at a level right now that I can, you know, send it back down to kind of help people at this point. So that's what's motivating me this year and for years to come.
Great advice, man. Great advice. Reaching out to others. I mean, again, that's what this MAC is all about. And, you know, if you're able to selflessly do that in your career, not only are you a good person, but, you know, that karma, those good vibes, they come back to you when you're helping others. So I encourage everyone to do that. Lisa, let us know what kind of keeps you motivated and what's next for you professionally.
So I guess the attendees couldn't see me, but as Melynda was talking, I was just nodding my head, just like I feel every word of what she was saying, being in a college athletics and not knowing what's next and seeing how it's affecting our student athletes. Like, I don't think I'll ever forget March 11th, like watching our men's basketball team walk out on the court to start practicing for the Big Ten championships and then be escorted off and then see March Madness end. It was just a very strange time. And I think everybody was just like the gif of like the fire everywhere. Like, this is fine. Everything's fine. I feel like that's how people handled it. But again, like with our student athletes, there's no competition this fall besides football that just got changed, but there's no competition this fall. So we're just trying to give them a real meaningful experience and, you know, and keep them engaged, keep them motivated and stop them from going into a dark place because they don't have the sport. But student athletes are always the motivation. We're trying to find the ways to best serve them and trying to help them succeed on and off the court. And this year it just looks different. But as everyone else has said, so it's just trying to continue to be innovative, try to be creative. As Ganiu said, I've been on other webinars, different panels, just trying to learn more, just trying to continue to be more motivated to do my job. So that's for that part. But for moving forward, what's next, I'm not completely sure of what's next, and I think that's okay. I mean, I know I enjoy compliance. I know I enjoy working at Rutgers. I'm really happy with what I'm doing, but I know there's still room to grow. There's still room for more experience, more responsibility. Just this year, I added another responsibility of being a primary for a sport. So I know there's still room for me to continue to progress in my career before I move forward. And it might be at Rutgers, it might not be, but I'm looking forward to what's next. But I don't have it completely figured out yet.
Which is, of course, perfectly fine. And again, another key there, always being hungry for more responsibility. It just gives you more skills that, again, may be transferable to another position and another career. So that's also very key. And before we finish up with Dan, quick shout out to Morgan. If you can tell the NBA to start like January, February, because then we get past football and then you have the finals in the summer. I think that's perfect. But I'm gonna just put that word in there. You can work your magic and see if you can make that happen.
Fingers crossed. A lot of people wanted the January date.
It's better for the TV deals. You don't got to compete with football anymore. I say it's the perfect chance to do it.
Morgan, you got Commissioner Silvers on your speed dial, right?
Right.
I'll check his calendar.
Right. Do that. We're going to close up this question with Dan, and then we're going to jump into a couple Q&As. Dan, what keeps you motivated at Upper Merion Park and Rec, and what's next for you professionally? And I'm just going to assume, since you've been at Upper Merion Park and Rec for now 23 years, you're not moving to another park and rec, but maybe I'm wrong. You let us know.
You never know what's going to happen. So, but I'll keep quiet about that since you're a resident. I don't want to get the word out. So what keeps me motivated? I think what keeps me motivated is the best thing that I like about my job, and that's the challenge and the unknown. Every day I come into work, there's different challenges, different expectations. Before we started this webinar, I was talking to a couple folks, and I had a lot of stuff to do today. We're getting ready for our budget presentation that's coming up, which is certainly a challenge when you're dealing with a pandemic and public funding and things of that nature. And I was trying to get ready for that presentation Thursday morning, and the bomb got dropped in my office that one of our staff tested positive for COVID. So we had to go into our protocols and our notification efforts, and had to spend half a day doing that. So it might sound terrible and horrible, but believe it or not, it's what keeps me motivated. It's the unknown and the challenges that we face every day in the world of parks and recreation. Having to navigate through this summer was certainly a challenge. Running day camps, running big special events like our 4th of July festivals and all of that kind of stuff. And all of you guys mentioned it, being on different webinars and learning from each other. That's what we spent most of our spring doing, learning from other park and rec folks throughout not only the state, but through the country, and learning how to adjust and think outside the box and still operate a park and rec department and understand the needs of kids, especially with schools being closed, and understanding the mental impact that's had on children, and how park and rec can fill those needs and voids that are missing right now. So that's been certainly motivational for all of us here in the township. And, ongoing is just understanding the different needs, the trends, and the change in demographics here in Upper Merion. Upper Merion's so different now than when I started, and that keeps me motivated. It's almost like a city now, as opposed to, a smaller town like it was back in the late 90s. So those are the types of things that really keep me motivated, and, stepping outside of my comfort zone, like I mentioned. As far as what's next for me professionally, I'm not so sure. I mean, I love this community. I love the opportunity that I had to grow the department. The department's certainly different than it was 10 years ago, and it's constantly changing. So there is opportunities in this field. I know you don't hear about Parks and Recreation a lot, but there is opportunities to move around, go to a bigger municipality, a bigger city, maybe, another area of the country where things are different. Certainly have had those opportunities, and there's opportunity to grow here in the township. Whether, right now I'm one of the senior department heads, but there is an opportunity to, move up to an assistant manager or township manager, something like that. Not so sure I want to go there because that's where more politics get into play. But again, keeping an open mind, I've heard that been echoed a lot. Keep an open mind. You never know what the future's going to hold, and always keep your eyes open. So that's what I'm looking forward to. See what happens.
Dan, I believe the timeless age-old term is "mo money, mo problems." It is the thing.
That's the truth. Absolutely.
A lot of really, kind of diverse answers here, folks from a lot of different backgrounds. I believe I'm the only person on the panel right now who is a full-time entrepreneur. And from my perspective, it's a different mindset. Motivation has pretty much been the core factor of me being able to do business for the last 5+ years. So, this year has changed a lot because, I am a problem solver. I'm a strategist. I love to figure out how do we get something done. And I've had this new hurdle that I've now had to figure out how to overcome for not only my own business, but for all my different clients. So the motivation has been, there's constant movement, constant questions and conversations and things changing that I haven't even had a time to really stop and think. The frantic pace of work has kind of kept me motivated, this year. And what's next for me professionally is hopefully more clients and doing more creative things in the sports space. I'm getting into a lot of video production as it pertains to sports. So just loving that media sports space, having been on the sports side, and just looking to grow my career there. So again, thank you to all of our panelists. We're actually going to jump into a couple quick Q&As. We're not going to go in any sort of particular order. I'll kind of give the question, and anyone who would like to chime in and answer, feel free to unmute yourself and start talking. And the first one we'll throw out there, this was from Jake Hall. What advice does the panel have for the seniors that are graduating this spring when it comes to applying for internships and jobs during this time of uncertainty? So what advice would you give a senior coming out specifically this year in our industry?
I can hop in real quick. Thanks for the question, Jake. And first and foremost, I'm so sorry that this has happened to you. Your last year in college having to deal with this. But I think my advice, and I would love for the other panelists to chime in, is network. I know Dan kind of led his kind of segment with it, and I know we've all kind of said it in our own way. You got to network your butt off, man. And you got to just do it in every unique way that you can find, right? Like, so we talked about webinars, we talked about conferences, we talk about panels. Obviously, LinkedIn has continued to be an incredible resource, but networking is going to set you up for the future. Even if the pandemic didn't happen, that was the way to set yourself up. But now even more, you need to do it, strategically, probably more often. And then like I mentioned, just continue to look at different avenues. I just registered for #sportsconference, and they do little breakout rooms after each session. And they're incredible professionals in that. So just being strategic, and now that we're all at home and we don't have to worry about, working a 9 to 5 and then being too tired to, reach out to somebody or go to an event, this time is crucial. So I would just hammer it home, network.
I do want to add something to the networking part of it, though. You can't be too self-serving, and so you have to find ways to kind of leverage your relationships that you already have as well. And so to me, it's not about who knows me, it's about who knows me and is willing to speak on my behalf. All 3 of my previous jobs came from people that were willing to speak on my behalf. I was a finalist for a position locally that I probably had no business even getting an interview for. And that's because people were willing to speak on my behalf to the athletic director at a Division I institution. So yes, you definitely want to be out there and be networking, but at the same time, informational interviews are just as good. So like, this is a really great opportunity, but I'm fielding LinkedIn requests from students, like reach out to people that are in positions that somewhat interest you and see maybe their experiences and how they could relate to you. So yes, it's really important to just do like the general networking, but kind of within your networking, what is your goals of those connections? Try to be like Ganiu said, being strategic in your networking.
Great point.
Awesome. Did anyone else want to chime in on that question? Can we move on to the next? Give a quick second. So to kind of piggyback on that, we actually have a question from Paige Davenport. Shout out to Society of Minorities in Sport. As a senior, Paige is feeling a lot of pressure to know exactly what she wants to do and having to like nail her senior internship. What can she do to help alleviate some of that stress? And before even opening up to the panel, I'll say, Paige, this is a stressful year and a stressful time. It's would be ignorant for me to say don't be stressed or the traditional stress relief type things to get over it, because it's unprecedented. I don't know how I would be handling this particular situation in particular climate. I think there's an element of doing a lot of research, and again, if you have a firm idea of what you want, that can help steer you into the opportunities you're going to try to get. But it's such a unique situation that it's one of those things where I think a lot of folks are just going to be stressed through this process. And, I think getting over high levels of stress now is going to help you when you have those stressful scenarios in your career. Whenever it does kick off, you're going to be able to deal with stress even better then because of these unprecedented times you're dealing with now. But does anyone else on the panel have some advice for Paige?
I can jump in on that and piggyback a little bit on what Zack mentioned. First, take a deep breath. I mean, we're all in this together. I mean, you hear that all the time, but it's so true. You can't let the pandemic, define who you are. Take advantage of it. It's easier said than done. Most of us are sitting here all working full time and things of that nature, but I'm assuming you have your internship lined up, but even if you don't, go into it and be yourself. Just be yourself and take the moment and let it shine through. You have it in you. You're coming from a great program at Temple University. It's very well respected. And, as far as what you can do to help alleviate the stress, just have confidence in yourself, have confidence in your skills, your abilities, your education, and I'm sure you'll do just fine. So that's my little tidbit there.
Yeah, I can jump in on that too real quick. Yeah, I mean, Dan hit it. It's perfect. One thing I would say too, when it comes to stress, is always try to keep it cool, I guess, in front of others at work. That's something I try to do. Cool, calm, collective is something that I tell my mind, a lot, especially when it's go, go, go. You haven't ate, you haven't slept, and you're just crazy, but you have so much to do. But if you can find a way to kind of bring it home and just control it, it's going to go a long way. I mean, it's something that people will say, oh, this person, they do well under pressure. Whatever that pressure might be, whether it be personally, professionally, if you can keep that within yourself for that little 8 hours of work and just grind, trust me, you can do it. That's one thing, especially, for me personally, when I was an intern and now at the Bowl, I mean, my family is still in Pennsylvania. I'm all the way in Arizona. I haven't seen them for the holidays in years. And my birthday is Christmas Eve, so I haven't been with them for a birthday or a holiday in years. But that stress, I try to keep it home, and just still do my job professionally. But knowing I'm still thinking about them, but if I keep it cool, calm, and collective during these stressful times, I'll get through, and then eventually I can go celebrate and go see them at a later date.
Some great advice.
Yeah, and I just want to piggyback off what Dan said. I think that was the biggest thing, right? Find solace in knowing that you're not alone in this. I think that's the biggest thing, right? Like, even though none of us will or probably will ever go through anything that you guys are going through, right? Graduating college through or looking for an internship through a pandemic. But we've all faced, stressful situations. But I think importantly for this one is finding solace and knowing like, hey, Paige, you're not by yourself. There are a ton of people that are going through this with you. And like I said, just try and enjoy it as much as possible and learn as much as you can during the process.
And I just want to hit on the part of feeling pressure of not knowing exactly what you want to do for your senior internship. just give yourself time to figure it out. Your senior internship is not your final destination. You could do a senior internship and not like what you're doing. So give yourself time to figure it out. Don't rush into anything just to take it. Like I said, your senior internship is not your final destination. There's a lot of opportunity out there for you guys to do different things. And I think a lot of us know what you guys as students and interns are going through, that there's not a lot of opportunity out there, to maybe to get a paid internship or to do something, but we're trying to help you guys. I know that I'm getting reached out to by a lot of people. I mean, we're trying to, if I don't have a position, I'm going to forward you on to someone else who might. So we're all trying to help you. So don't think you're alone and don't be stressed.
And
Yeah, I mean, throughout my experience too, I mean, leaning into fellow Temple alums has been really, really helpful in terms of like networking, job prospects. My first STHM internship with Xfinity Live was with alum I met at a career fair. And then like Ganiu helped me get an interview before. So, I mean, I think we definitely tend to go to bat for STHM alum or students too. So that's a great place to start as well.
Awesome. And, I think one of those things that kind of themes together that first question answer and the second question answer is that, that networking element plays a lot into this, networking with, alumni, whether it be through the STHM MAC or the Alumni Association or the Connections platform. Networking with alumni isn't just for your career advancement. Being able to come to us to talk about being stressed, to talk about, some of those issues you have. I don't know if Jeff is still on the call, Jeff Montague, but he got a lot of calls from me my first couple of years when I didn't know how to feel about certain scenarios, the situations that have happened. I used him as a resource, and, you can use, alumni, you can use some of your professors. All these people are really good resources. So I think they're a good avenue when you are stressed out. We had another question on here, which I want to get to right quick. And I love y'all who are sending me these questions after 7, because I want to keep it going, but I know we have a time limit here. We have Keshav Patel. What advice do you have for freshmen specifically on who to talk to, what events to participate in, how to get ahead in this field? And before opening up to the panel, I will say one thing. One of my best interns I've ever had was a freshman. Even though you're not getting school credit for it, there's nothing wrong with looking for internship opportunities, even at that particular age. Again, that kind of comes down to confidence. Are you confident that you could have a position and actually handle certain responsibilities? So I'm a big proponent of get as much education as you can. You don't have to wait till your junior and senior year to do so. But does anyone here on the panel have some words or thoughts on that question?
I can go ahead. Sorry. Ladies first.
Talk to your professors, talk to your advisors, talk to people in the career services. Make sure you're connecting with everyone. And I feel like with STHM, from the beginning, we're forced into like making these connections and doing all these informational interviews. But talk to everyone, go to the events, really make your face seen and known. I mean, STHM is pretty small, but to put yourself out there so professors see you're participating in things, and the faculty and staff see you're participating in things, I think that's the most important thing to do. I still reach out to a lot of people from STHM, just to say, hi, how are you? But you guys need to put yourself out there. You need to make your presence known. And that's really going to help propel you into your career.
Did you have something, Dan?
Yeah, I just had 2 quick things. One, diversify yourself. I mean, when you're a freshman, you got plenty of time ahead to figure out what it is you want to do for the rest of your life. It wasn't until the final semester of my senior year that I knew I wanted to get into the Parks and Recreation field. I mean, I knew I wanted to get into sport and rec, but didn't know exactly which way I wanted to go. So, get yourself some experience. You know, if you're not sure what avenue you want to go down or what path you want to go down, take advantage of this time now, and do some volunteer hours. Get involved with what it is you think you might want to do, and don't pigeonhole yourself into one aspect of sport and rec. Diversify your experience so that, you know, when it does come time for you to pull a trigger and make a decision, you're able to do so. And another one, and it's been mentioned, I can't even count how many times now, is networking. You may meet somebody in your freshman, sophomore, junior year that when it comes time to interview 2 or 3 years later, you open that door and you run into that person. It happened to me. It's happened to a lot of my colleagues, that it really is a small world, especially when you start getting involved in the field and interviewing with folks. You never know who you had an opportunity to impress at one time in your life, especially in your college education time. So again, networking, getting involved, and going, you know, try to get as much experience as you possibly can is going to help you in the long run, especially now that you're a freshman.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Joe.
Are you good? Go ahead.
I just want to echo some of those things. For me, it was, don't forget that an unpaid job is still a good experience. Like, I feel like, especially for sport and rec, there's so many opportunities out there that are unpaid. And like, there's definitely a part of privilege that comes with this, but like understanding like volunteer hours are just as important. When we I don't think they do this anymore, but we had to put together like all of our industry hours. I had like a gazillion hours to the point where I didn't even write them all down, which some of that came with being a manager for the women's basketball team and all that. But like, I had so many different experiences, I couldn't even write them. And so like the 4 hours to do 50-50 at the Sixers game or the Eagles, I remember like I worked so many random events I couldn't even name them. But don't be scared to, you know, say yes to things. To me, I'm always saying yes. If I can mentally do it all, do it.
That's actually the exact same thing I was going to say. I was going to touch on the industry hours because I think a lot of us on this panel had to do them, and I hope STHM still does it. I heard a rumor they're not. I'm a little heartbroken because they were not the most fun for us. Everybody that knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, like Dan said, diversify yourself. Get out there, try different things. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I actually, when I was in school, I actually worked for the city of Philly in the Parks and Rec department. And Dan, I'm sorry, but I realized I do not want to work in Parks and Rec anymore after I did my 2.5 years of doing that. And that's okay. I mean, I did it when I was in school to help pay my rent, you know, my books and things like that. But that was the time to do it, you know, and again, get out there, work at different events, you know, obviously being in Philly, you have the resource of all the sports and all the events are there in the normal times. So you have your marathon, your Broad Street Run, the Union, the Sixers, the Eagles, the Flyers. I mean, get out there and just see what you like and see what you don't like. I mean, and try Parks and Rec. Maybe you'll love it. I don't know. But definitely get out there is the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, knowing what you don't want to do is just as important as knowing like what, like if you have more direction for your career. I mean, I started working out in arena management and at the League Course Center and then with events. And I found out quickly, events is not for me. I love digital just because, you know, it's always changing, evolving. So I just like the pace of it. Yeah, events wasn't for me, and it's important to know what you don't want to do as well.
Yeah, Morgan, that is a major key. Even me, myself, I was in pro sports, you know, working for the Nets for 6+ years. And I realized that I did not enjoy a 9 to 5. And I also did not like working 40 nights a year in a stadium till 11 o'clock. So when I had that opportunity to make a transition, I jumped into entrepreneurship because then my schedule is changing every day. And I realized that that is what I need. My attention disorder, it needs that change. And I'm thriving in that position now. So that is a very key thing. It's very important to know what you don't want to do.
I feel you on that. I'm very much the same person.
Right.
And just to piggyback on Zack and Morgan, I think more importantly, it is for yourself to know what you don't want to do. But I think also when you're reaching out, when you're strategically networking, like Melynda mentioned, I can't tell you, there's been countless amount of times where, you know, students, you know, people, young professionals have reached out asking me, you know, is there an opening in partnership marketing, but not knowing what partnership marketing is, right? So do your, do your knowledge, do your due diligence, learn what you want to do, but then also make sure you're doing it in a strategic way. So when you do reach out to somebody asking for help or an information or interview, what, what part of the business that they actually, are a part of.
Awesome. 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 So first off, let me just give a quick thank you to Angel, Melynda, Dan, Lisa, Ganiu, and Morgan. This was an amazing discussion. We really enjoyed having your guys' input. I hope all the students who attended, both undergrad and graduate, were able to get a lot from this panel. So just want to thank you all for participating and watching. Please follow us at STHM Mac on Instagram. And please sign up to receive our updates, newsletters, all that good information we put out at bit.ly/email-mac. And another request, make sure you guys search out STHM Mac on YouTube. We're not just like youtube.com/STHM Mac. We're not that big yet. So if you go on there and subscribe, we'll be able to get our custom link. But make sure you check that out. You'll be able to see the Meet the Mac webinar, and of course the panel that we did last week, which was so awesome, called The Disruptor, all about noticing biases in our industries and how you can become a disruptor. And last but not least, make sure to save the date, Tuesday, November 17th. A little over a month from now, we're going to have our next MAC panel, and it's going to be about that relationship management item. So we're going to go really deep into relationships in the workplace, how to build and network. As you saw, networking was a major theme throughout today. So we're going to have a really engaging panel, a diverse panel that's going to dive into those topics with you on the 17th. But again, I'm Zach James with the MAC. Really happy to have you all here today. And I'll turn it back to you, Elena. And again, thank you all so much for joining.
Thanks so much, Zach. I'd like to thank Zach, all of our panelists, and of course the MAC's Job Shadow Committee for putting together today's presentation. Please be sure to follow them on YouTube, and please join us on STHM Connections, where we'll be archiving all of the webinars as well. This concludes our presentation for today. So thank you so much again for joining us. I hope you all have a great evening.